and tonight we're doing something a little bit different. As you may be aware, this month's task was to work my way through the Axis Bold of Love album, Hendrix's second album, and as many of you who follow the 1 Minute Lick series will have noticed, there was an awful lot of variations on a theme, and this is because although it's a Hendrix album, I was quite surprised to find there's very little in the way of what you might term lead guitar heroics. But that's not to say there isn't a lot of fantastic guitar work there. There is some beautiful rhythm work to be had in something like Castles Made of Sand, in Axis Bold as Love, and of course A Little Wing. And I thought it might be fun to take a slightly different focus, rather than banging out the widdly stuff, to have a look at some of Hendrix's approach to chords and rhythm playing. As I think this album, it really started to come into its own. So we're going to start with Little Wing, because it's Little Wing, isn't it? We had to. First off, it's always important to understand what the basic chord structure is that you're outlining. So here we've got a bar of E minor, G, A minor, E minor, E minor, A minor, C, G, F, bar of 2/4 on C, back to 4/4 for 2 bars of D. And the way Hendrix addresses that chord sequence, you see how I prepared this? So, lovely as that is, let's pull that apart. Now we start, depending on whose version you believe, with either fretted or 12th fret harmonics. It's the same note, so let's not worry too much about that. And so what we're doing then, grabbing a little E minor triad there at the 12th fret, and then there's your E root note. And we can take these notes as being D into E, G into A, so they are flat 7 into root and flat 3rd into 4th. And really, we're using this other note here as a texture. So here, for example, I've got the 5th fret on the D and the A strings, and the 5th fret on the D is going to stay static. And then I'm going to hammer my way from the D to the E. I'm going to do the same thing string up. So 5th fret D hammers into 7th fret D, G to A, and 5th fret on the G, that stays static. So this note, less important, this is a texture note really. And then chord moves to G. And straight there we've got a classic Hendrix style fill which exemplifies what this approach is all about. You've got these two notes here, 3rd fret on the B and the high E strings. Now that's a D and a G, so that's a 5th and a root. And then he keeps the B string note, the 5th, still. Meantime, that root note goes up 2 frets to become an A, and then hammers back off again to become back to a G root note. So your basic idea is you're playing 2 notes at a time, both chord tones. One of them goes to a scale tone, usually a major pentatonic, and then comes back to the chord tone. We see this again. So what's happening here? There is a G triad, and we're going. So I'm keeping the 5th, 3rd fret on the B string. I'm keeping that static, and then here, this note here, this is a B. This is your 3rd. Goes up to being a C, so a 4. So you get like a sus4 to major resolution. And then we rake our way into an A root note, probably done with his thumb. And there he's just kind of visualizing an E minor shaped A minor chord and really just hammering his way down. A visualization of it. Then you can spot A minor shaped E minor chord. And you might even notice a little bit of position 4 minor pentatonic going on, and you can see the melody being filled out by this texture note right above it. One of the reasons you notice when he plays, you actually see him do a lot of downstrokes, more so than you might see a modern player. A modern player probably alternate pick that, because he would be playing in single notes rather than thinking about a double stop idea. And then we've got the B minor, which we obviously add that C sharp into, that's your ninth. Little chromatic passing chord in the B flat. And then we got playing around with some grace notes, G, A, B. But always we're keeping that chord shape in mind. Keeping really these two notes, the C and the G, so flat third, flat 7, as your core, and then moving a melody around those two notes. And then we come to this, which is a really interesting idea, because what you've got here are stacked fifths. I've got a root note here, which is played with its thumb. Then I've got my root note again, double an octave higher, in this case G, so G an octave higher. And then kind of sound the open G, kind of not. There's a lot, not entirely easy to tell. And then we've got a fifth higher, the D, and then a fifth higher than that, which is the A, which if you view G as the root, A becomes the second or the ninth, which he slides. C, even Jimmy would use an open C every now and again. Now here, we're thinking about this chord shape. Now this is a D. Now there's a few different ways you can view this. Either it's an A-shaped chord, and you've taken the root out of the bass and put the third in, the F sharp. Or you can view it as it's a G chord, G-shaped D chord rather. And we're just playing that part of it. But either way, you can also notice that doing that gives us access to the D major pentatonic scale, which is the perfect thing really to embellish an open D chord, well, D major chord with. So lots to play with from that idea. Now the next one that we're going to take a look at is rather less well known. This is Castles Made of Sand, and you notice there's an awful lot of the same stuff going on. We've got, for example, the same stacked fifths. And slid up. And then we've got a rather cute riff built around basically a G, B flat, C, B flat chord sequence. And the bit I really want to draw your attention to is this bit. That's the bit I think is really the most useful to try and take a look at. So there is Jimmy doing his typical thumb over the neck. There's my root note. There's my triad. And that is B flat, but first inversion, or G shape, depending on how you want to view it. And that's letting him hammer into that third, slide that up to get a C, and then rather than move the whole chord back to being a B flat, we just move the bass note back, which was an unusual thing for a guitar player. Keyboard players do this stuff all the time, but yeah, they do it in two hands. Guitar players, we are known really for practicing our lead, but kind of neglecting chord ideas, so this is really quite cute. So that's a really interesting little riff, and using that type of... Now one thing that these chords will also let you do, so there for example I've slid C into D, second to third, and then put my B flat triad there. Very easy to get from there to an E flat by just doing the Keith Richards move, hammering from second in version 1 to first in version 4. So lots of stuff that we can take from these kind of ideas. Right, we're going to move on, quickly take a look at the title track, Axis Bold of Love, Bold as Love, excuse me. I had a sip as well. Chord sequence, A, E, F sharp minor, D. Even Jimmy used a 1-5-6-4. And what we're singing is so straight up A bar chord, and then there's my B static, the fifth, then there's my G sharp here, that's going to move up to the A and back, so third, fourth, third, and bringing in a little dose of the sixth there as well as C sharp, and sliding thumb up to the F sharp minor. Again, same sort of almost like a pentatonic idea there, and then into the D. So we get a power chord, and then we're thinking about this inversion. And then I'll leave you with a little bit of whittle, because it's Hendrix, there's got to be a bit of whittle in there. As we get into the chorus, so the chord sequence that we're playing over, and if you pardon me, I'm just going to take a moment to program this in as a loop. We're playing D flat to A flat to B minor, sorry, B flat minor. We might try and edit that one out. D flat, 2, 3, 4, A flat, 2, 3, 4, B flat minor, B, C, and what Hendrix plays is an arpeggio bass lick, so we're getting away from pentatonics this time. Almost all day. And this is based on a 3-string idea, at least to begin with. So I'm starting off with my 3rd on the 10th fret of the G string, 5th on the 9th fret of the B, root on the 9th fret of the high E, F, A flat, D flat, stretching over to the 3rd, an octave higher on the 13th fret. And we've got a basic kind of triplety pattern. Moves that down to follow the chord shape to the A flat, flatten the 3rd for the B flat minor, and then B, C. And as the track progresses, he moves into playing a 2-string version of it, just to get a little bit more faster and more aggressive. And it's just interesting to see how his phrasing has progressed from just doing the first album, which is basically all pentatonics, and starting to make a few, starting to evolve a little bit, starting to get outside that basic framework. And I think this also has to do with a little bit of where this album sits in the band's evolution. Usually the first album is what the band have been working towards their entire life, and it's a lifetime's work of songs, and they sort of finally got this album over the line, and great, we're rock stars. And then the second album is, oh Christ, we've got to do this again. And then the third album, that's when the drugs kick in and nobody says no to you, and that's why you get Electric Ladyland, which is what we'll tackle next year. So in the meantime, I did, of course, see everything is linked. All the tabs are linked in the blog. I'll throw links down there below. What I would say is, please do not fall into the trap of slavishly following the tabs. Make sure you listen again. Trust your own ears. Jimmy would never have played the same thing twice. And if you want to see how great a reinterpretation of something can be, take a look at the Stevie Ray version of Little Wing. It's not note for note the same as Jimmy, but my God, it's brilliant. So really, any of the ideas that we've looked at here today, please do use them as jumping off points for your own ideas. That's what we're after here. There's no point trying to be a Jimmy clone. He wouldn't have been a clone of him. He wouldn't have played exactly what he played in the studio live either. Use this as a basis. It's very important that. Okay, well, I'm going to go and edit out the technical glitches and bits where I've stumbled over my own tongue. And I will see you next month. Please do like, share and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you next month for Buckethead. That's going to be an interesting one. All right, all the best out there. Take care. Bye.